Shabbat Shalom. We turn to our prayers to light our Shabbat candles, page 3 and page 2. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
On page 20, we turn to the words of Lecha Dodi as we make sure that today is different as we begin this Shabbat, as we turn into this evening, that we separate this day. We make it sacred in whatever way we can, and we take this moment to welcome the day in. As a bride entering her wedding, the Sabbath enters our sanctuary and our homes. The words of Lecha Dodi, we share the verses. As we get to verse 9, we'll turn and face our entrances, either to our sanctuary or our homes, as we welcome Shabbat in and make this day unique. Page 20.
Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat, nekabela. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachu b'dibur echad, hishmi'anu el hanayuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'lit chila. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitorari, kiva orach kumi uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai, elayich nigla. La 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise and face the entrance to your home or our sanctuary. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'sachala, toch emuni am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 likrot kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela.
Page 26.
Please remain standing. Yikadav, Yikadav, Shemei Rabbah, V'yamad Yivrach Yerotei, V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yamechon, U'chayetecho v'Yisrael, Ba'agala, Uvizman Kari Vimaru. Amen. Yehi Shmeira B'Mevorach, Le'alamu Almi Maya, Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrama v'yinasi v'yitadar v'yitalil v'yitalal shemed kodesh barichu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiram v'oma v'meru. Amen.
Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see and to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, and to despair. We ask, God, that you teach our lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew our days. Lest our day be today as the one before, and lest routine set my ways. As we turn towards the east, page 28, the words of Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 ya la ya la la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'id. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'id.
Please join me at the bottom of page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Haravim. Page 33, as we prepare for the Shema. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. The more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. So what could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works, the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Shem Kevod Malechuto Le'olam Le'olam Ba'id. And thou shalt love Adonai
can be seated if you'd
thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in thy heart, shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
On page 40 and 41. The words of Micha Mocha, in some ways the words that we'll hear tonight, that Bruce will share with us, and as he reads Torah this evening. We'll read the story of the second set of tablets. In some ways it is a reminder that we too often misinterpret these words that are on page 40, which come earlier in the book of Exodus, because it sounds to us like the words of Micha Mocha, these statements of absolute awe, are the statements that are said as you cross the finish line, when you realize that what you've been looking for has finally been achieved. And you look up at the world and you say, Micha Mocha, how amazing. What could possibly be like you, God? Because we've done what we came to do. And yet, it's only a third of the way through the Torah. And so tonight, Bruce will share with us that there was no finish line in the moments that they said Micha Mocha. It was simply a pause along the way to acknowledge where they were and where they had to go. Please join with me, page 41, as we say these words and then share in the words of Micha Mocha together. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, a song of peace.
Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha neidar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot oseh pele, Nora tehilot oseh pele. Malachutecha ra'u v'necha, Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, Ze'elianu ve'yameru, Ze'elianu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha neidar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot oseh pele, Nora tehilot oseh pele. Please join us for Hashki Venu on page 42. This is an interpretation. As I lay my head to rest, will you watch over me? Shield me from danger in the shelter of your wings, and illuminate my dreams. Hashki Venu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim, l'chaim. When the moon slips out of sight and the sun comes out to shine, will you return my soul to me when I open up my eyes? Hashki Venu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim, l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Hashki Venu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim, l'chaim.
On page 46 and 47, we prepare for our most personal prayers. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. While prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. We ask for the courage to pray the words that we need most in these moments, words that reach back to our ancestors and that bring the strength of those ancestors into those who are suffering now in these moments, as we'll share our prayers in a few moments for healing and for peace. Page 46, please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zacher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei Benehem, L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashi Baruach Umorid HaGashem Mechakeh Chaim Bechesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somach Noflim Berofech Olim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Avar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Umidam Melach Melech Meimit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman Ata Lahachayot HaKol Baruch Ata Adonai Mechayeh HaKol.
Kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha sala baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Please be seated. I want to offer the words on page 51, which are not typically the words that come next in our prayer book. We'll go back a page, but because there's a prayer in our prayer book that says sometimes we get too rote in our prayers. And even though we're pretty flexible here, we do tend to get somewhat rote, and these are beautiful words that we don't often get to share. We pray that we might know before whom we stand, the power whose gift is life, who quickens those who've forgotten how to live. We pray for the winds to disperse the choking air of sadness, for cleansing rains to make parched hopes flower, to give all of us the strength to rise up toward the sun. We pray for love to encompass us, for no other reason save that we are human, for love through which we may all blossom into persons who have gained power over our own lives. We pray to stand upright, we who've fallen, to be healed, we sufferers. We pray to break the bonds that keep us from the world of beauty. We pray for open eyes, we who are blind to our own authentic selves. We pray that we may walk in the garden of a purposeful life, our own powers in touch with the power of the world. Praise be the God whose gift is life, whose cleansing rains let parched men and women flower toward the sun. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Blessed are you, God, who allows the living to live a full life. Turn to the words of Shalom Rav, page 60, as we pray that all of us can find that wholeness, that sense of shalom, and that great sense of peace can make its way to our world.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Tasim leolam, ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom, ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim.
Please take a few moments for silent meditation. peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. And it flows like a river. It flows like a river. It flows like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. And it flows like a fountain. It flows like a fountain. It flows like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like the ocean. I've got love like the ocean. I've got love like the ocean in my soul. And it flows like the ocean. It flows like the ocean. It flows like the ocean in my soul. Sim shalom tova tova uvracha chim v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom tova tova uvracha chim v'chesed v'rachamim. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. And it flows like a river. It flows like a river. It flows like a river in my soul.
We're honored to have Bruce join us this evening as our Torah reader. Bruce is perhaps the great blessing is that he's coming immediately from a bowling win with the Highland bowling team, which he coaches, having just beat our local Copley team in the sectionals. So right from winning in bowling to coming to read Torah. So we'll have Bruce help us undress the Torah, then I'm going to give the Devar Torah before you read, so you'll hang out here for a little bit. You're good. Stay right there. But what he's reading, we're in that meaty section. You get the way Exodus works is Exodus sounds a lot like Genesis at the beginning. Great stories. We get the plagues. We get the Israelites leaving, and then we get into the details of the tabernacle, and then you get this reprieve from all of the details of what the priests are wearing and how the tabernacle is built. And the reprieve is you're back into the story of the golden calf and the second set of tablets, which is exactly what Bruce will be reading this evening, is the moment at which Moses comes down with the second set of tablets. The first set of tablets being smashed also happens in this week's Torah portion. The second set of tablets distinguished, we are told in the Torah, by the fact that the first set of tablets written entirely by God, the second set of tablets, a marriage between God and Moses in writing them together. And so they became a new type of document, even if the words were theoretically the same. So we'll start our Torah service, page 250. Please rise as we'll take our Torah out of the ark.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadolu Adonai Iti, Unaramema Shemo Yaktab, Lecha Adonai Hagedula v'Hagevura v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Hahod, Ki cho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki cho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamitnasei lechol erosh.
Please be seated. So as I mentioned, I want to share some words about Torah before we hear the portion itself. So we're in this section of Torah in which the Israelites have left Egypt, been in the wilderness, received the Ten Commandments, and then, as we tend to be, they are an impatient, stubborn, stiff-necked people. And they can't handle the fact that Moses went away for a little longer than they thought, and they created the golden calf. They had a party. They made sacrifices. Moses comes down a second time, and he shows them. He creates the second set of tablets with God, as I mentioned. And so there are two points that I want to make about the Torah portion. The first is, from a broad perspective, one of the pieces we learn from this Torah portion is that it's not enough to simply have escaped slavery. The people demand that there be something exciting about the future. It wasn't enough. We say Dayenu plenty of times. The truth is, Dayenu doesn't work. It was never enough. It wasn't enough to just be free. They had to actually have something exciting to look forward to. They had to have some life before them. I look at where we are now and how much work we've done to protect ourselves, to not get sick. And I would say the same thing. It's not enough just not to get sick. We want to live healthy lives. So we're in a moment, hopefully, at least we think for this moment, we're in a moment where maybe we get to shift gears from simply protecting ourselves to living healthy, active lives, to going out and embracing the wholeness of the world again. In the same way that the Israelites weren't satisfied having left Egypt behind, they wanted more. I wonder if we're at a point where we get to say, perhaps finally, or perhaps for the 8th time before it's rejected again, I'm ready to live life again. So the first lesson is, it's not enough to have simply protected ourselves. We want to live. Which leads to the second point. So what is it we're looking to do? That's the challenge. That once you leave slavery and you cross the sea and you get out into the world, or the wilderness as it was called in the Torah, the question becomes, do you create a golden calf, or do you do something else? Some of you may have seen, if you're watching the talk shows these days, or if, like me, you get certain news magazines, Harvard professor, there's a Harvard professor who has written a book, From Strength to Strength, Finding Success, Happiness, and Deep Purpose in the Second Half of Life. He warns us that if we fall for the golden calf mentality, we find ourselves happy for a moment, but not satisfied for very long. And in fact, we find ourselves almost addicted to the idea that I want the next new shiny object. He calls it the dissatisfaction problem, and he explains it with an example of 2 kings. The first one we know quite well. Here are his words. It's Arthur Brooks, by the way. I forgot to mention his name. He writes, I remember once seeing LeBron James, the world's greatest basketball player, with a look of abject despair on his face after his Cleveland Cavaliers lost the NBA championship to the Golden State Warriors. All of the world's wealth and accolades were like straw for this man in that moment of loss. The second king, Abd al-Rahman III, the Caliph of Cordova in the 10th century of Spain, he quotes him saying the following. When he was 70 years old, he wrote to his people and he said, I have now reigned above 50 years in victory and peace. I'm beloved by my subjects. I'm dreaded by my enemies. I'm respected by my allies. I have all the riches and honors and power and pleasure that I could have ever asked for. And so I can tell you the payoff. I've counted the number of days in which I had pure and genuine happiness. They amount to 14. Brooks' concern is that we define satisfaction and happiness by the wrong formula. The formula we tend to use, he says, is that satisfaction equates to getting what we want. And so if I just look out into the world and I desire something, and if I get that something, that championship, or the car, or the trip to Hawaii, that perhaps I'll then be satisfied. But his studies have shown that we never are. He calls it stepping on the hedonic treadmill. We become so accustomed to the very short-lived satisfaction when we acquire something new that we just want the next new thing. This is exactly what the golden calf represented. It was shiny and new. It offered immediate gratification in the wilderness. And so the creation of the calf brought people to give up what they had and set off a massive party. So let's talk about what the Torah's response is. The words that Bruce will read tonight. The Torah doesn't give them a different shiny object. The Torah doubles down on what it had already given them. It was nothing new. It wasn't shiny. It was the same tablets that they had already seen. And they become the key to a different type of satisfaction. One that Brooks writes, not referring to the Ten Commandments or the Bible at all. One that uses the right formula. So the formula, he says from his studies, that give you long-lasting satisfaction is as follows. You have to take what you have and divide it by what you want. The secret to satisfaction, he writes, is to manage our wants. And so I ask you now to think about the Torah's response to the golden calf. Moses disappears for 40 days. The people no longer are enslaved, but they're impatient. They focus on what they want. They want a God that they can see. They want something shiny. They want what they have not had under slavery, the ability to get up and dance and party in excess. So they take their gold and they get on the hedonic treadmill. They start making shiny things. And the Torah responds with 2 tablets that I believe can be separated into 2 categories, not the traditional ones. One category, fitting Brooks's formula. Notice what you already have. Commandment 1, I am Adonai, your God. You already have me. Commandment number 2, keep the Sabbath. They're not in order. Keep the Sabbath. In other words, you already have time. Cherish it. And the third of the noticings, honor your parents. They're already in your life. And the second category that I think you can split the rest of the Ten Commandments into. Stop looking at what you don't have. You shall not have any other gods. You shall not murder. In other words, don't take time away from others so that you can have their time. Don't commit adultery or stop looking at someone else's spouse. Do not steal, so stop looking at someone else's stuff. And the last of the Ten Commandments, perhaps all-encompassing, sometimes we call it the one in which, there's 2 more. Do not bear false witness, so stop saying you saw something that you didn't see. And the last that is all-encompassing, sometimes we look at it as a summary of the others. Don't covet anything. Not your neighbor's worker, not your neighbor's animal, not your neighbor's house, not your neighbor, period. Brooks didn't quote the Ten Commandments in his article, and I haven't read his book yet, but I am guessing he didn't quote it in his book. But I wonder if he would have realized that parenthetically he was referring to the document that we've had since the book of Exodus. That his formula for satisfaction, which says, look at what you have already and do your best not to throw it away for what you think others have. I wonder if that formula is, in short, the singular message of the two tablets that the Torah gave to us, not once, but twice, and that we've held on to ever since. And so as Bruce shares these words tonight, I hope that we hear them as we approach a break in this pandemic, a shift that will allow us to move from just dodging danger to pursuing life. And in that pursuit, as we start to wonder how we might do that, I know I, as I already have been, will be tempted. Tempted, as we always have been since biblical times, to pour my energy into short-lived material joys that will depart as quickly as they come. This week, I take to heart the reminder from a Harvard professor, from Moses, from Exodus, that satisfaction in life will be achieved better by valuing and holding on to the time, the people, the values we already have, than by pursuing the objects, the relationships, and the experiences that perhaps we covet. Shabbat Shalom. It's an honor now to invite Bruce to share these words with us. He's going to be reading the first verses of chapter 34 in the book of Exodus. Let me make room for him here. The blessings are found on page 250, if you'll join with me. Make sure we have the right spot here. Do you want to say the blessings? You or me? Let's find your spot first. Do you want to do it? Sure.
Barku et Adonai Hamvarak.
Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarak Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bakar bano makol hamamim v'natan lano et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai El Moshe Pesalacha Shnei Lakot Avanim Karishonim Vakatavti Al Halukot Et Hadavarim Asher Hayu Halukot Harishonim Asher Shabarta V'yenakon Laboker Valita Vaboker El Har Sinai V'nitzavta Li Sham Al Rosh Hahar V'ish Lo Ye'ela Imach V'gam Ish Al Yera B'kal Hahar Gam Hatzon V'bakar El Yeru El Mol Hahar Hahu Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'kaye olam natah v'tako enu. Excuse me. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
God said to Moses, carve 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will inscribe upon the tablets the words that were on the first tablets which you shattered. Be ready by morning, and in the morning come up to Mount Sinai and present yourself there to me on the top of the mountain. No one else shall come up with you. No one else shall be seen anywhere on the mountain. Neither shall the flocks and the herds graze at the foot of this mountain. Well done. Go back to your seat. the Torah out and our story before us, we offer the words of Misha Berach, our words for all of those who are suffering in any way, that they find a full sense of themselves and a full sense of healing. Page 253.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
If you'd like to share a name of someone who you're thinking of.
Reed Wasserstrom. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with Refuah Shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Please rise as we return the Torah to the Ark.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael, Api Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yalai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la ya la ya la la la. Etz Chaim hi Amachazikim v'tomecheha meushar deracheha derechei noam v'chol netivataha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Eilecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedim.
Page 282.
Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, l'tekedu l'aliotzer v'reishit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchachenu kahem v'gorenu k'chamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malkei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al karet, v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. It's hard to sing of oneness when our world is not complete. When those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and not but memory can fill the emptiness that their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It does not tell us what each of us alone must now become. And so we remind ourselves that no one is truly alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and our words, and what they did in life is part of what we have become. Therefore, we do our best homage to those we've lost as we live our lives more fully. Each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, we're taught. Each one of us holds on to the breath of the ultimate one of God. Therefore, affirming God, we affirm the worth of each human being, whose life, now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, and in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. We remember those in our community whom we've lost in recent weeks: Rita Wallman-Stern, Dr. Richard Lieberman, Sal Giglio, Francine Wasserstrom, Stephanie Axner, and Araj Yedidzion. We add to their names those that we lost at this season in years past: Morris Ackman, Beverly Shevlin, Aaron David Cohen, Lillian C. Eber, Eva Frank, Martha K. Freeman, Nancy Jo Harris, Jerry Hendon, Milton Cadis, Alma Karn, Ben Corman, Samuel Kotler, Jenny Deitch Meltzer, Hilda Mild, Blanche Morris, Joan Gale Newman, Harry Pergosin, Harry Richmond, Edward Schott, Louis Segel, Ann Singer, S. Stone, and Martin Zimmerman. If there are names I mispronounced or names you'd like to share, please share them now. We rise as we honor the memories of our loved ones by recalling the power of life, page 294, the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kariv imru, amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam almei almaya, Yit barak v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh, v'yit hadar v'yit haleh v'yit halal, Shemei dekudasha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, huya asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Having connected with those that we've loved and lost, we now bless each other with the words of the priests. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May you feel God's presence within you always. May you find peace.
Amen.
Please remain standing as we'll share the words of Kiddush and Motzi, followed by announcements from Mike Siegel.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho b'yahavav v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'masi v'reishit. Ki hu yam techila l'mikroi kodesh, zecher l'tziyad mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'charta, v'yotanu t'kidashta, mikol ha'avim, v'shabbat kodecha, v'yahava v'ratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shalom, please be seated. I'll invite Mike to share a couple brief announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to Kathy and Eric and Bruce. Thank you for reading the Torah tonight. We appreciate it greatly. Now, I have two versions, Rabbi, of the announcements. One's given to me by staff and one given to me by Sisterhood. So I know I must read from both, okay? But in regards, the announcements tonight are fairly ordered, and I'm going to do it in chronological order of the events coming up. So Sisterhood, this Thursday evening, February 24th, is hosting Courtney Johnson-Benson from Temple Israel in Canton. It is a program on diversity and inclusion. It is open to all. It is here in person in this room. So please register in advance for that. If you have any questions, please contact Barb Udisian relative to that. A week from this Sunday, which I believe is February 27th, right? I'm getting a nod. 10 a.m., we sing in the library with Cantor Kathy. And finally, the Interfaith series, which includes Temple Israel, Faith Lutheran, St. Hilary, and New Hope Baptist Church. Art, did we add anybody else? Okay. Starts Wednesday evening, March 9th. Please register online or on the St. Hilary website. You can register for being in person or virtual. Shabbat Shalom, and the only thing I'll add is, Bruce, what you said, may there be peace.
We'll close with the words of Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. May we find that peace continues to increase in our lives and in our world. Wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Please join with us.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Shabbat Shalom.